Mother, man.
This is Rick Fisher with Sik Rik Masks, and you are listening to Murder, Metal, Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder, Metal, Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri of the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast, and I'm doing this interview with Rick Fisher, the man behind the sickest masks on the planet. You may know him as Sik Rik, and we have 9 of his amazing masks here in the studio. So thanks for doing this interview with me today, Rick. How's everything going there in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio?
It's going pretty good. It just keeps getting a little busier every year. Just keep building the product offering, and that just keeps spinning more collectors and more customers. So everything's going good on this end.
That's awesome. And having been to your place and toured your dungeon mask making operation, I could tell you are in the lair, and I could feel the sickness pouring through the monitor here at me. So.
Yes.
And likewise, I'm in Horns High Studios, and as I said in the intro, we've got 9 of your masks in here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to show some stills of the complete collection we've got here in the studio. They're all around us on the walls, on the mounts that you sell, and they just look so cool. It's always the focal point whenever we get a new person that comes in here. They're like, holy shit, I saw pictures of those, but up close they really freak me out, you know.
Awesome.
So it's really cool. So you have been a busy guy lately making some new masks, and we've got the latest one, the Jim Jones mask, which is just absolutely unbelievable. But tell us a little bit about what made you decide to do that. I mean, of course, we know him as the crazy cult leader that, you know, poisoned over 900 people with Kool-Aid and Flavor Aid. But what made you decide to do that mask?
Well, I typically will run out. I'll have a couple of ideas or recommendations. People are always emailing me and messaging me, you know, do this guy, do that guy. So I kind of keep track of those that I hear most frequently. So occasionally I'll post images of 4 or 5 potential subjects and just kind of let the customer base, the collector base, vote and see where the most of the interest was. And this time I did it, I had Eileen and I had Jim Jones, and they both got a very similar amount of interest, and Jim pretty much won out by maybe 10 votes. So I knew I was going to be able to sell out the first edition, which is all I really ask for. You know, I mean, the rest of them, the residuals sales will just come in time. But if the initial blast, I can sell 40 of the numbered pieces right out of the gate, that's a successful design for my business model. So, but that's how it came to be. Just more people requested it.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, because there's so many you could do. I mean, it's really limitless, you know.
It is. Yeah. I mean, you got the true crime guys. Now I have the cult and occult. It's a new tab I started on the website. So cult leader / occult figure. And so in the future, I'm going to also start doing some true crime, Cosa Nostra, mob boss family, cool. Bosses, and start to kind of go down that street a little bit. I think that's an untapped market. There's a collector base there that's pretty rabid as well that don't know much about what I do. So we're going to start to go down that street too, but that'll probably be a few years off.
That's awesome, man. Now, you have an amazing event coming up, and depending on when you're listening or watching this, the event may have already passed because it's coming up pretty quick, but you're going to be doing some work with Macabre, who you've already done some stuff with. But what's this big show coming up that you were talking about?
Okay, well, yeah, this year they're only doing a handful of shows. They're doing a little run from Cincinnati to Youngstown to Detroit. and I think Indianapolis. And then I think they're starting off tonight, actually. Is today the 23rd?
Yes.
Tonight in Illinois. So like in there near Chicago, I think. But yeah, so it's just a short little run they're doing. And on the Youngstown date, they're headlining a Death Fest, a 2-day Death Fest in Youngstown. And they're headlining day one. And I'm going to be bringing out some props, and we're doing these little sketches for 5 of the songs in the set for the various characters that the masks that I made for their stage show are associated with. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I get to play 2 of the characters, and there's going to be a lot of blood, a lot of guts. It's gonna look like a very low budget Gwar show on some levels.
Nice.
So, except with real true crime killers rather than the Gwar world characters.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, I bet that'll be intense, because I've seen some of the pictures you've been posting on Facebook, just some little teases of what you've been doing for them and for this particular show, and that just looks wicked as hell. I can't wait to see the video and pictures and stuff from it.
Yeah, we'll be posting videos and pictures, and if it all goes well, if it looks as good in person as it does in my head, I think we might do it again another day. But
awesome.
For right now, this Youngstown show is kind of the test show.
Very cool. And of course, anybody listening that's not familiar with Macabre, we've played them on Murder Metal Mayhem before, but they have a lot of songs, of course, about serial killers, so it works hand in glove with what you do and some of the masks you've already created.
Have you had him on the show to rap with you?
I've never had him. We've never interviewed him before. That would be a lot of fun, though.
I'll bring it up.
Yeah, that would be cool, because I know they've commented on our Facebook page before, so I know they're familiar with what we're doing, and yeah, that'd be cool. But we've interviewed different bands before, that's not them, but we've played their music, and we've talked about them, plenty of times on the show. So very
right
cool.
It's right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
What they do and what you do are.
It really is. And of course, they refer
same.
to themselves as murder metal. So I remember when we first started the podcast, somebody asked us if we had something to do with Macabre, and I said no. I said we're a podcast and they're a band, but we're definitely talking about a lot of the same things, and the music we like, even the type of metal fits what they're doing. So
yeah,
so we're more into the extreme stuff. So I've seen your operation there, Rick, and I know there's a lot that goes into making a mask, but what's just the short and sweet kind of, how does it happen from sculpting it to actually pumping out masks? What is the process there?
Coming up with the subject, getting the reference material together. The better the reference material, the better the sculpture is going to be. So finding someone that's extremely passionate about the subject, that like runs a fan page about whatever subject, get them to shoot you a bunch of images that the public doesn't necessarily have access to. That helps. Mm-hmm. And then just jamming on the sculpture, getting it to a point that you can live with, that everybody else can live with, and making the mold, fill the mold with latex, and clean it up and start painting, start selling them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's it's more time consuming than I think people realize, but that's cool, because if it was super easy, a lot of other people would be doing it. And as it stands, I think I'm the only person making serial killer masks right now. There might be one or two other guys that have just dabbled, but I think I'm the only one that actually like really does them, like day in and day out, full time.
And we've been saying it on the show, Rick, and I'm not just saying that because we're doing this interview, but man, it seems like every one you do is like just a shade better than the one before it. And we keep saying, like, how much better could these get? I mean, the Aleister Crowley one was unbelievable. And then, of course, the Jim Jones one that we just got. But the Crowley one I passed on only because I just put central air in my house and my budget was a little low. So I said, you know what? Maybe when I get things caught up a little bit better, I'll eventually get it. But you just, I mean, just amaze me at the quality of the work. I'm not an artist in that sense. So I'm so amazed that somebody can do that on the sculpting side. It just really phenomenal, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you do something long enough, you tend to get a little bit better at it, just repeating the same, it's sculpting different faces, but once you kind of understand the anatomy, you just kind of figure out what makes this person unique. They got a tiny chin, or do they have a big pronounced forehead, or do they have, a big dome head, or, do they have are they a pinhead? I mean, it could be, just, it's cool. I dig it.
No, it's really cool. So what's this new deal you got with Trick or Treat Studios? Because you just posted some pictures of some repaints you did on some of that stuff, and holy shit, I mean, it takes it to a whole different level. But what's the deal you got with those guys?
Yeah, it's a cool, I had kind of tossed around the idea of doing this before, and I just didn't because I was busy with my other job, and I just felt like it would take too much time out of my day. But now that I'm trying to focus more on just doing masks exclusively, I reached out to them and said, hey, if I were to be a distributor, is this something you guys would be accepting of? So I filled out this application, and they needed some business information that I kind of already had to jump through with doing business with Zagone. So I kind of had all my ducks in a row already. I just sent them over all my credentials, business stuff, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm carrying anything from Trick or Treat Studios that anybody might want to purchase. And that's not just the masks, it's the costumes, it's the Christmas ornaments and their little enamel pins, anything that those guys sell. As long as it's in stock, I can order it and stock it and have it on my website. Now, doing this, I can also do repaints. And I wasn't really that familiar with the repaint collector market, but I'm quickly learning that there is a lot of people out there that are looking to have this done. So I think between selling my original designs and sculpting and keeping up with the business on that end and doing these repaints, like this afternoon, I have to repaint a Michael Myers to look like the scene in Halloween Kills when he gets all burned up in the fire.
Oh, shit.
So it's just things like that, it's just, and it keeps it fresh. I got to paint that Fulci zombie yesterday.
That was amazing, man.
And, it's just a nice little breaker between having to paint Jim Jones over and over and over and over again, or paint Pogo for the 500th time. It's cool. When you start to feel yourself getting burnt out, it's like, oh, this is cool. This is fresh. I get to figure this paint scheme out. And, so I'm excited about it. I think this is going to be a really good, a good marriage.
That's awesome. And Trick or Treat Studios is a monster in the, in that game. So
they get all the big license.
Opens up you up to a whole new audience. That's really cool.
And it's really going to be cool. They have their rules, and you can't just start posting stuff on Amazon and all that. You got to follow their business model. But I got a lot of people following me on social media. So if they're fans of these characters, might as well buy them from me instead of Spirit Halloween or Halloween USA.
Sure, makes sense. That's really cool. I never really thought about that until I started seeing you do those repaints, and that's when I was like, wow. It would, like you said, just gives you something different to work on that you haven't done before. So that's really, really cool. So we have 9-ear masks here. Of course, all of them are true crime related, except for the very first one, the one that just pushed me right over the edge. And I got to tell you, I think I've told you this before, but the Venom black metal mask, I loved it when I first saw it, but what totally threw me over the edge and made me go run for my wallet so I could buy it was the inverted cross stand. That just sets it off perfectly. I was like, how can I not order this with that stand? So, yeah, we've got him on our satanic wall, so to speak. I've got him next to a real exorcism kit that I bought off the Booth Brothers at a convention that was used by a priest. So it's really cool, authentic looking, and it's in its glory on this inverted cross stand with Route 666, the sign over it. So just love that. How did that all come about? Because I know you worked with Cronus and the guys in Venom about this.
Yeah, I just reached out to their merch company, and then they kind of tied me into a group email with Kronos. And when I first suggested, he was like, I think it's a great idea, but I've seen people try to recreate this character in 3 dimensions. And, he works on 2 dimensions, but I've seen a lot of times it doesn't work 3 dimension. So, just be mindful that, this might not look like what you're trying to do.
Right.
So I just sculpted it up, and I just kind of followed how I saw him in 3 dimensions. And I shot him a picture, and he was very on board. He was just like, oh yeah, this is going to work. So we did it. And the only complaint we've had really is that, some people felt like, you got to train people that not all masks cost $25 at Goodwill.
Right.
You got to kind of explain to them how much time is associated with it. And you're buying a piece of artwork. Yes, it is wearable. And yes, it's latex. And yes, it's a Halloween mask, but it's a piece of artwork and it's a collectible, and
right.
So once you kind of get people on board with that mindset, then it's not a difficult sell. But speaking to the inverted cross stands, my buddy Cody, who has made stands for me for a long time, he came up with that idea. And when he brought over the first copy of it, I was just like,
yes.
Oh my, this is awesome. But he doesn't make them anymore. So you have something that a lot of people want but don't have.
That's very cool. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And like I said, and I'm not like all into Satanism or anything like that. It just, growing up listening to Venom back in the day, that was like my first extreme band. I remember listening to those songs and thinking, oh my God, if my mom hears this, she's going to lose her shit,
Yeah.
So it was like this forbidden fruit type thing. And then, of course,
Absolutely.
the satanic overtones. And, anybody that knows Venom, it's done kind of tongue in cheek, and it's not meant to be like, this real satanic thing. But I've always been fascinated with dark and disturbing things, and the satanic stuff falls into that. But that's where it ends. And that's why the Crowley one, it's like, I know he was like really into that stuff. And it's not that bothers me. It's just, that's not why I would have bought it. I just bought it because I think he's a fascinating figure, and we did an episode on him. It's one of the most listened to episodes we've done. So we've done him, LaVey. We did LaVey. That was another big one. And we did one on LaVey, witchcraft. Sure. And those people are really into that shit. And it's not a subject we do a lot. So when we do it, it seems like it does bring in the people that, just into that stuff, So
you meet a lot of different people.
Yeah, for sure. What other music-related masks have you done, Rick? I know the another one that's on my list is the El Duce mask that you did from the Mentors. That was a great one.
Yeah, El Duce. Got a few Gigi Allens. I did the Motorhead for Trick or Treat Studios, which coincidentally I'm also stocking that design.
I saw that. That's really cool.
One of those repainted the correct way. Their factory, that's a very complicated paint job, getting all that chrome down. So I can understand why their factory can't put that much time into every piece. But I bought 2 of those, and I'm going to be repainting one of those like how my prototypes were. And I did one of the Iron Maidens. I did the Psychobilly that's associated with the Cramps from Stephen Blickenstaff. I did Devo Boogie Boy. I still sell tons of those. I just most recently did the Teenage Bottle Rocket, skull and rocket logo.
Yeah.
What other music stuff have I done? Well, this one is not official, but
Yeah, the Bowie. Didn't you do one for Gwar too?
I did Slimenstra, yep. And Jeff Clayton from Anti-Scene, dressed up as General Ursus from Planet of the Apes. He's got the big bulbous Ursus helmet. Mr. Bungle.
That's right.
Can't forget Mr. Bungle. I did a piece for Seether. That wasn't a mask. It was just a sculpture, but I did that. Am I forgetting anybody?
Possibly. You've done so many. And that's another thing to point out, Rick. You mentioned earlier about wearing the masks. You could either wear them or display them, and all the ones we have are display, so they've got the eyes in them, but you can cut the eyes out for a wearable mask, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With these true crime guys, it's usually pretty easy, unless their hair is really big. Your eyes will line up right around where their eyebrows are, so I can keep the eyes intact because that's such an important part of each piece, having those painted eyes glaring at you. And the person wearing it will look out through the sight hole just above those eyes. So you're still making eye contact with the person looking at you, but the person looking at you isn't looking at your eyes.
Oh, wow.
They're looking into the eyes of the true crime subject. So it adds a cool creep factor.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Albert Fish.
Yeah, and that's the one. I like the Albert Fish one we got because it's gray. Of course, he was known as the Gray Man, but the eyes are blue, which is just really striking. You can really see him. And
yeah, he was a fun one to do. He was probably he's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, and the older ones, I'm sure, are more of a challenge because you don't have as many pictures of them.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of pictures, but it just kind of came together with him. It just sometimes the sculpting gods smile on you, and sometimes they want to fight you. So with him, it really came together pretty quickly. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the next one.
Yeah, and I really like that you offer them in different versions. Like the Geen one we've got is a zombie. The H.H. Holmes one is in like a sepia type of look, and like some of them you'll do natural skin tone, and then others you'll offer in these different variations. So it's really, the limit, there's no limits. So you'll do pretty much whatever somebody needs you to do.
Some people will buy all of them.
Oh, wow.
This guy just bought, he bought 2 of the Jim Jones, and he was going to buy a third one. And I was like, well, let's get everybody else on the list taken care of first, and then I'll jump you back in towards the end. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, technically, he bought one and his wife bought one, so I didn't really feel bad about taking up 2 spots at the same, kind of in the middle of it. But real cool dude. He has his tattoo parlor, and he and his wife do these things where they put hooks through their through your back and suspensions, and they have this whole oddities type museum in their house, and so cool. They have all these. They're going to have all these Jim Jones heads.
Holy shit!
Right by there's a big deer head with Jim Jones heads around it.
Oh, I think did you post a picture of that?
Yeah,
I thought I saw it. The deer head. I was like, okay, that's definitely very interesting. So that's cool.
See that when I go to Pittsburgh next time.
Awesome. Now, you've recently just announced your next piece, and I was telling the guys, we talked about this on the show, I'm like, I just don't know if I could look at that one every week when we do the episodes, because she's pretty hideous, but I don't think I'll be able to resist. But why don't you tell us who's the next one, Rick?
Yep, so Eileen Mornos is going to be the next one, and I just started putting the clay on the on the
Oh,
armature this
wow.
morning, and it's kind of at that goofy state. Like the way that my brain works is I make real quick judgments when I'm putting the clay on the armature. So I'm not really thinking about final product. I'm just thinking about what features are most prominent with this person, and then you just kind of start blasting those in, and it has a caricature type cartoon look to it, and then you spend the hours really studying. Okay, I know this is right, but it's off a little bit.
Right.
Is it too pronounced? Is the nose too bulbous? Does it need to have more weight to it? Are the cheeks too full? Or should it be more gaunt? And then as you just slowly whittle those things, by a fraction of an inch, boom, she's staring at you.
Yeah. And those eyes, I mean, you're going to nail it. You're going to nail it. It's going to freak me out.
A lot of
it's going to
people
freak me out because those eyes are, man, that's just like one of the most chilling of all the serial killers to
that
me.
Interview, especially that jail interview right before they execute her.
Yeah.
And she just goes from, I mean, you can see how it happened. She goes from 0 to 1,000 in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So that shift in personality is exactly what her victims saw.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And fascinating.
Yeah, very fascinating, because you don't see a lot of the serial killers that are female that kill like she killed. The poisoners and some of them that we've covered on Murder Metal Mayhem, but she is one of the more unique with the, up close and personal, shot them, but did it at close range, and pretty brutal stuff, man. It's a fascinating case, that's for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm not so sure she even knew what was real and what wasn't. I know that she had, in her mind, convinced herself that she was a victim in each of these instances.
Yeah.
But how much of that is factual, and just how much, I mean, it sounds like the more you hear about her, she was really quite a bullshitter. And
did she tell herself that to justify killing those dudes?
Yeah. Like, did she have a deep-seated root in wanting to act out these crimes, and then just in her own, defense mechanism to keep herself going, keep getting up every morning? Oh, well, he deserved it.
Right.
Right. I think that's probably pretty close to accurate.
I think you're probably right. Now, what about your days in the band world? I know when we've talked before, you and I both former musicians playing bass. I think you played bass as well, right?
I did. Yeah.
And so I'm a former bass player, both in thrash bands, which is interesting. But what were your days doing that, Rick? That's been a while ago.
It has been a while. It was awesome. We were very big into the DIY thing in the beginning, and there was a publication called Maximum Rock and Roll that used to put out an issue each year called Book Your Own Fucking Life. And within this issue, it was just a directory of all the different states and countries that where someone would say, hey, I'm a small punk rock promoter. I put on shows at a local laundromat, or I put on shows at the VFW or whatever. And then there'd be college radio, send them your demos, give you the address, and maybe do an interview. So you could book your own tours. There would be small distributors where you could trade your tapes for tapes on their list. And then in order to recoup your investment, you would just sell the tapes that they're trading to you.
Right.
And then in turn, they would sell your tape to their people in their community. So it was a really cool network.
Yeah.
And that's how we started touring. Was we just sold everything we owned and bought a old church bus and gutted it and built beds inside of it, and just started traveling around the country playing these little punk rock shows.
That's awesome. When was this now? Cool. When did you do that?
The first time we left home was in 91.
Okay.
And there was this show in Tampa called The Morbid Underground, and the woman it was a public access show, and I'd become friends with the woman that did that. And so when we showed up in Tampa, she kind of showed us where to stay and introduced us to the guys in, Brutality and Nasty Savage and she knew all these metal guys. And we became really good friends with Ben and Richard from Nasty Savage, and they had their band Gardy Lou. So we actually did a full tour with Gardy Lou. We did like 25 shows with them, and we got to open up for Nasty Savage a couple of times.
That's
and
cool.
so it was a great networking thing. And then that led to us doing an album or an EP for Wild Rags. And then Wild Rags led us to Lethal Records, and we did a full length with Lethal Records, and they paid for us to record it. More Sound, which was the place to record.
What was the band name again, Rick?
That band was called Ripped, Ripped.
That's right.
And so it was cool. It was a great time, but it just seemed like every time we turned around, we were getting lied to. And, it's like,
it's a shitty business.
It's a shitty business. And especially when you're working with lesser reputable labels, you really leave yourself out there to, get taken to the cleaners. So, luckily for us, Lethal Records did actually pay for that album, but we never saw, we saw one copy of it. So we had to bootleg our own album, essentially. And so it was just weird. And I wish it hadn't gone the way it did. We were supposed to do a bunch of dates in Europe with Alchemist. And, there were people on that label that had decent careers going. Asheron was on that label. And
oh, cool.
So there were bands that were doing stuff. So I thought, all right, well, this guy's not going to fuck us over. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we lived that life for quite a few years, and then it just ended. And it's a fond memory for the most part.
Yeah.
Met a lot of cool friends.
That's how it is with me. I had a lot of fun, but it's definitely not something I would ever want to do again at this stage of my life.
I wouldn't mind doing it again.
Really?
It would have to be just perfect. I'm a 53-year-old man, so nobody really wants to go out and see a brand new band of guys in their 50s. I'm not so sure, but
right.
If I were to find the right people that already had their own little following going, I have my own cool little following going with the mask business, but I think that these people could also get on board with a music project. And if I had a guitarist that had, maybe was in a band that had some stuff going on and they're just looking to explore a different genre or something, and a bass player, just get everybody together.
Right.
And just all the stars would have to align perfectly. And that the likelihood of that happening is probably less than 1%, but I would do it if the right circumstances.
Well, we're about the same age because I'm 55, so I could relate to everything you just said. That's for sure. Now, going back to your art, different kind of art, what other artists, Rick, inspired you to either become what you are now or continue to inspire you to be better?
Well, there's tons of great mask makers and sculptors. Mikey, who did the sculpture of that Fulci zombie that I did yesterday, I've always admired his work quite a bit. He does a lot of film work, and he does some masks, but a lot of what he does are like facial prosthetics. And so he really lives the Hollywood world. He lives in LA, and he's really good at what he does. So I admire him quite a bit. Justin from Trick or Treat Studios, their art director, again, real connected guy in Hollywood. He works on films and, makes a lot of mask sculptures. Again, just a down-to-earth, cool dude. Will take the time. I mean, I saw him at Mask Fest, and I was working on a sculpture at Mask Fest. I brought it with me because you're just sitting there killing time for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
He came over. He's like, "Yeah, you mind if I touch the sculpt?" And I'm like, "No, dude, knock yourself out." So he just kind of went in, started doing some work on it and showing me some little things that he thought could be done better. And, not everybody would take the time to do that,
right?
So those two guys, in music world, I find a lot of inspiration with music, and I'm always listening to music down here, but everything from, the Beach Boys. I love Brian Wilson. I I love that Twin Temple, that, you know, they called the Satanic Doo-Wop. Amigo the Devil, I listen to him a lot. I love Amanda Palmer. And then just, you know, the old school metal stuff, obviously,
Right.
you know, but I tried not to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to be the old guy that only listens to heavy metal that was released in the 80s and 90s. You know, I want to hear, I want to always know what else is going on. If somebody's like, dude, you got to hear this, I'm listening to it. I'm going to take the time and listen to it because I want to know everything. And
that's cool.
So keeping an open mind. So, but I don't know if that completely answers your question.
No, that's cool. I've always loved to ask what drives people to do what they do. And I always love to ask this question of bands. So I had to kind of rework it to fit you. But if you had to pick one of the following to be murdered by a serial killer, would it be Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian, or Fred Durst, and why?
You know what? I misread that question when it was initially posed. I thought you were asking which one of those people I would like to be murdered by. And I had a very witty answer.
Oh, okay.
But now that I understand the question better, oh, wow, that's tough. You know, something tells me that the Biebs isn't as big of a jackass as the media wants you to. He is set up for people like myself to
make
want
fun
to hate
of
him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him a pass, and because he's young, and young people do stupid shit.
Right.
Fred Durst. I think he's having some health issues right now. So if the man is in poor health, I guess I would be reluctant to say I want to see him snuffed out. So as beautiful as she is, I think we're going to have to cut down Kim Kardashian.
All right. Well, you know, serial killers dig the cute chick. So, I mean, I guess it would kind of fit, you know, so. There you go.
Is a beautiful woman, no doubt about that.
Well, I always like to ask the bands if who, you know, and I give them the options, but I say that would die in a mosh pit at one of their shows, and so I've gotten some really funny answers. And some of the European bands are looking at me like, "Man, you Americans are fucking nuts! Like, why would you ask me that? You know, I don't want to answer that. You know." And then some of them are just like, "Do I have to pick one? Can't it be all?" You know, and we have a lot of fun. But what about your version of the question, Rick? If you had to be killed by one of the three,
it was going to be Kim also.
Oh, okay.
I just thought being smothered by Kim might be a good way to go out. You know, just
that's funny.
We'll leave the body parts off for this, but
there you go.
Yeah, I think just being smothered by any part of Kim Kardashian until my last breath would be the way to go.
Oh, all right, fair enough. I like that version or that variation of it. Now, other than Murder Metal Mayhem, Rick, I know you're a listener, but any other podcasts? I know you listen to a lot of music down there in the basement when you're doing what you do, but any podcasts you like?
I don't listen to a ton of them. I have listened to that last podcast on the left a little bit, and it seems like they're having a lot of good success.
Yes.
With what they're doing. But again, most of what I do down here is listening to music, but I have listened to a couple of theirs. Of course, Murder Metal Mayhem is the only true podcast to listen to.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
The rest of them are hacks.
Well, we've had a lot of fun doing this for 4 years, but like with the band thing, same as you, I was, you know, always been at the DIY school, so we don't have any money in a promotion budget, agents, anybody doing it. It's just us and word of mouth, and we're having a lot of fun. And the nice thing about doing it that way is you don't have anybody telling you what you'd have to do or can't do or this. You're your own boss. It's the same way with my writing. I don't have anybody telling me I don't want you to write that or maybe you should write this. I write what I want, and I might not make as much money as if I would have hit it big in the traditional publishing game, but I also don't have a bunch of people to answer to, and I think there's something to be said for that. So,
well, absolutely. You know, play by your own rules, do your own game, and be awesome at it. And people will find out about it. It takes me back to when a quick band story. We used to send out a lot of demo tapes to different record labels, and there was one in particular, and I don't even remember which label it was, but their form letter that they sent back was, and I will kind of paraphrase this, but it was essentially, don't send us your demo tape. Go out and be you, do you, play all the shows, stand in your driveway and scream at the top of your lungs, and if we hear it, you'll know it. It's like, and oddly enough, down here in the creepy basement, I didn't set out to do all these great things that I've had the opportunity to do, but because I just kept doing it, and like I've never reached out to anybody and said, hey, do you want to put this mask on? I mean, I've reached out to subjects to do projects for them, but the Trick or Treat Studios thing just happened with my sculpting for them. Just you do something, people, if it's good,
right,
people will find out about it. You don't really have to try that fucking hard. You just have to hump it. You got to show up every day. You got to work hard every day. And I know this makes me sound like an old man, but you got to show up. You got to fucking bust your ass. If you're hungover, it doesn't fucking matter. Get up at 6 a.m. and go down there and start fucking working and put in 8, 9, 10 hours every day, 7 days a week. And people will notice, and they have. And so I've gotten to grow this to what I have. I mean,
that's awesome.
Very fortunate.
That's cool, man. That's very inspiring. Hopefully people listening that are thinking about doing something, whether it be music, writing, art, whatever it is, playing the Jews harp, whatever it is. If you really want to do it, man, just put the work in. Because like you, I mean, I've been doing this for a really long time, creative things, whether it be music or writing or what have you. And it's just some days you wonder, man, is it worth it? And then there's that email you get from somebody that, read something I wrote or listened to a podcast, just totally blew them away. That just definitely makes it feel like it's worth it, and that's
absolutely
cool.
It does. I think there's a disconnect, and especially since the era of entertainment being people equating success in entertainment with winning a reality TV show, whatever, the cake, you're the best cake maker, you're the best fucking singer, you're the best, right, whatever this, whatever that. People kind of are conditioned to think that I can't succeed unless I win in that arena. And that is not fucking correct. Get out there and do it yourself. DIY. Pump it. Be awesome at it. Perfect it. Put in your 10,000 hours and people will respond.
That's cool.
Public speaker, Rick, right there.
There you go. Motivational speaker.
Motivational speaker, yes.
Comes out with the Venom black metal mask on and everybody runs out. But that one crazy motherfucker sitting in the front row. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Rick? It was definitely fun talking to you, but I know, you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, you're doing lots of different things, but anything you wanted to plug or let people know about?
Yeah, just anybody out there, we're coming up on Halloween season. So if anybody is looking for, just a real functional Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger type mask, hit me up. Trick or Treat Studios has all of those licensed images, and I can get, if they're in stock, I can get them, and you'll be supporting my business rather than Halloween USA or one of those right, pop-up box stores. I got Jim Jones. I have 2 spots left on the list for Jim Jones. So if you want one of the numbered copies, you can still jump in, and stay tuned for Eileen. She's going to be coming down the pike here as soon as I get the sculpture done.
That's awesome. Definitely, if you're listening, link to Rick in the episode description. If you're watching this on YouTube, same. You'll be able to see the links, how to get a hold of Rick. Sik Rik Masks, that's SIKRIK masks.com is his website. And thank you so much, Rick, for taking the time out to talk. I knew it would be fun. You're just a great dude, and I was really looking forward to doing this and appreciate it here at Murder Metal Mayhem.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I love your podcast, and keep rocking.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Mother, man.